Hey guys, Erin Manuel with week 4 video discussion. And this week I interviewed Kenny Tolman. He is a digital marketing specialist at the bank that I work at. And it was interesting during this when I asked him if he would be willing to help me with this assignment. I had originally set a date. And he's like, of course, it was the middle of the week. And when I asked him, he was like, yeah, what about like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon? And I'm like, I was thinking something along the lines of Google Hangouts or something like that. No, he had something different in mind. He was like, well, let's just do a phone conference. And I was like, okay, great. No big deal. We can do that. So I was thankful I was able to do it on work time, but unfortunately wasn't able to get the interview that I wanted. And what was interesting about this video is that I had originally started out with 10 questions. And then the more I got to talking with Kenny, the more questions I had. So by the end of it, I had like 15, I want to say, interview questions total. And then Kenny actually brought in his boss, Randy, who was the director over our marketing department. And so at the beginning of the interview, I had obviously asked if it was okay for me to record the conversation, and Kenny said yes. But then when I got transferred to his boss, Randy, unfortunately, I just assumed that I had permission to continue to record, and I didn't tell him or I didn't ask if it was okay for me to publish what he said. So unfortunately, I do have good information on Randy. He was very blunt with me. He didn't sugarcoat anything. He opened my eyes to new ideas, and it was really interesting. This obviously isn't my first time talking with him because we work together, but I got a new side of him that I have never seen before. So that was cool, but unfortunately, I didn't get to document that. But out of the interview questions that I had with Kenny, so a little background information on him first. Before I did the interview, I stalked him on LinkedIn because I'm not going to be that person who doesn't know my coworkers. He literally just started about a month ago. And so I was like, I know nothing about him. I have still yet to meet this dude in person. So I did a little social media stalking, and I found the most on LinkedIn. He is a business owner of Deliver All Designs. So what he does is he works for a printing company, and they print his designs on like t-shirts, posters, anything for advertisement, things like that. He was an adjunct professor at USAO, which is a college in Chickasha, Oklahoma. He was an instructor at Canadian Valley Votech, which was interesting. The more I got to talking to him about that, I figured out that he had a coworker that was actually my teacher. So I went to the Canadian Valley Votech in El Reno, and he taught at the Votech in Chickasha, which I thought was really cool. So he kind of knew my instructor and knew a little bit background about her. So I thought that was a small world coincidence. He used to be a graphic artist at Pinpoint Monograms. His skills include digital photography, web design, logo design, advertising, and multimedia. And his technology skills include InDesign, Illustrator, and Photoshop. So out of these 15 questions, I picked the 3 that I thought had the best answers to them. And the first question is, what do you tell people who thinks that graphic design is just a hobby? And to that, he said he tells people that there is nothing in this world that was not graphically designed from the ground up. So he was explaining like the trucks that we drive, the pencils that we hold in our hand, is all being designed by someone. And so his main point there was our world is run by design, which I really liked that answer. My second question that I liked the answer to was, when you were in school, was it your plan to become a teacher? And he says, no, not at all. He said he worked right out of high school for a little bit and then went back to school for a computer engineering degree. Then he had an art degree to it later, and he never thought about art before. So when he got into art, it was just a requirement for associates. And he told me that he had never taken an art class before. And his instructors were like, you really need to major in art. And he's like, there is no way on God's green earth am I doing that. That's just more money that they're drawing from me. Like, he was pretty much hell-bent that he wasn't going to get an art degree. And sure enough, he ended up getting a bachelor's in graphic design, which I thought was interesting. And then I asked about plagiarism, ethics and plagiarism. I said, did you ever teach your students the importance of ethics and plagiarism? And he said the students were not allowed to Google anything in his classroom. He said they could use it for reference. So, like, if they didn't know how to draw something, they could look at a picture for reference, but they weren't allowed to use that photo anywhere in their artwork. He said every once in a while, students would try to pull something over with him, and he could always tell because he knew what the students were capable of doing and what their weaknesses were. So he would always explain the why behind why we can't do things like that. He said that he ran his classroom in a very business-like setting. So he's like, if you were sitting at an office desk right now creating a design for a company, say that him and I both work for, he's like, if you try to pull an image off of Google or an image that's not yours completely, it could ruin your entire career. So those were the few things that I thought was interesting, and more or less on the art side of our degree. You think advertising is just like getting a message out there when there's so much more art behind it. So that is my week 4 video discussion, and thank you guys for watching.